and welcome to the channel. Today what we're going to talk about is how we can go ahead and create PDF documents from Excel worksheets by using WinAutomation. Let's go. As usual, let's talk a little bit about why this episode is important. So in RPA use cases, and this isn't just specific to RPA, but in RPA use cases, a lot of them do involve Excel, and there's generally some sort of calculation that is performed when you're in Excel. Take inputs, populate different cells, you might have macros running in the background, and you want to be able to compute or calculate some sort of outcome. And naturally, because we have essentially machines doing this work, there's generally some sort of audit that's required. And a popular way of audit is actually just capturing exactly what happened, but using a PDF document, which is more difficult to alter than in an Excel spreadsheet. And so that's the core focus of this specific episode. Now, this is part one of a part two series. Part two will follow this week. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually take multiple worksheets and stitch them all up into one PDF. And so it's a little bit of a more advanced session, so do look for that video itself. Now, in terms of how we accomplish this using WinAutomation, we're going to actually use the run VBScript action in order to accomplish that. Before we dive deeper into the content, I wanted to let you know about an emerging community found at serverlessnotes.com. This is a community resource that covers best practices, tips, and latest announcements built on contributions by technology enthusiasts from around the globe. On serverlessnotes.com, you'll find content related to Power Automate, Azure Logic Apps, Azure Service Bus, Azure Functions, and much, much more. Serverlessnotes.com is brought to you by Serverless 360, a portal that is focused on operations and support for Microsoft Azure serverless resources. Now, this is a complementary tool to the Azure portal, and it helps organizations in supporting Azure serverless applications. You can find out more about Serverless 360 at serverless360.com. You might be asking, why VBScript? Why would we be using VBScript? Isn't there a save Excel action? And there is a save Excel action, and generally that does work. However, not so much on the conversion side of things, especially when we've got more advanced conversion than, say, CSV. So here, if you go ahead and look at this action, we don't see any sort of PDF option for us. And so this is why we're going to go ahead and leverage the VBScript capabilities. Now, could we go ahead and send hotkeys that would do say Control A, which is save as, and then basically, tab, select from a dropdown? We could, but this will be more predictable because we have some explicit actions that we can actually go ahead and call just by using some VBScript. Now, this is essentially the code that we're going to use in VBScript. I will copy this and I will include it in the description of the video so that you don't have to go ahead and try to type all of this out. So do go ahead and look for it there. Now, one thing that you should be aware of is that when you go ahead and run this code, it will go ahead and set the active worksheet to a specific worksheet that you provide a parameter for. This was something that I added in addition to the code that was already provided on the Softomotive website. And the reason why I did this is whenever you save an Excel worksheet, it will save it with that active tab in context. And so here we're explicitly able to provide the tab that we do want, or the worksheet that we do want to go ahead and export this. This isn't a situation where it'll automatically export the whole document. It is going to do it essentially worksheet by worksheet, and that's this code right here. Now, so that's we'll see this more so in the demo, but that's the reason for that. So do pay attention to the tabs that are active. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's see this demo in action. Okay, so here I am. I'm in Excel. It's a fairly simple Excel worksheet. It's essentially like an action tracker and nothing overly too complicated. As you can see, I do have multiple tabs. And what you can see is that I have in each of them I need to update this. I have just called out what is the tab, just so that we can easily identify each of the different tabs itself. So for example, let's go ahead, let's just hit save, and let's actually close this down. and then what we'll do is we'll run our code and see exactly what happens and why it's important to explicitly set your tab. Okay, so now I'm in WinAutomation. I have two variables that I'm setting. The first one is the path to my Excel spreadsheet. And this will be important because these are values that are going to be used inside of the run VBScript action. Then I also have a second variable, and we are going to use this to identify the file that we want to save the PDF contents to. Right, so we've got an ExcelDocPath and a PDF file path. Now inside of the VBScript, here is where we will go ahead and use the Excel object, right, just as part of what Microsoft provides. And we will go ahead and open the doc, and we are going to pass in that path, that ExcelDocPath that I identified up here. I have commented out setting the Active Worksheet tab, and so we will uncomment that in a little bit. And then here is where we go ahead and export as a fixed format. And this is going to be our PDF document. And then we're just going to go ahead and close the Active Workbook and exit the application. So let's go ahead and let's give this a run. So it runs pretty quickly. The other thing to know is that it ran silently, like Excel didn't pop up. That wasn't the case in this. It's running behind the scenes. Okay, back to my folder. Now let's go ahead, and if you recall, our second worksheet was active. And so here, sure enough, we've got tab 2 that is showing up here. And so that's why it's important, where if you want to make sure that you are not saving someone's activities who was last in the document and forgot to set the tab, that's why it's important to explicitly set it itself. So let's go back into our script. Now we're going to uncomment this out, and we're going to say, like, we want to set tab 1 as our active worksheet. So let's go ahead, we'll click on save. Let's run this again. Let's open up our PDF. And sure enough, we can see that tab 1 was exported. And so this is why it is very important to explicitly call that out. So this essentially concludes this video. What we will do in the next video is we will actually go ahead and work through all of the worksheets that might exist inside of an Excel document, and we will make sure that we go ahead and capture all of the worksheets and include them as a single PDF. So do look for that in the second video. All right, so once again, thanks for checking out the video. If this was of interest to you, do look for part 2 of the series, where we will get into a more advanced situation of exporting all of those tabs and placing them into a single PDF document. So thanks for checking out the channel. Please go ahead, like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.